All right, and we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Inner Circle podcast, man. It feels good to be here. Once again, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. The Trinity is together. I only want to talk about the Trinity because I haven't seen Justice League yet. Everybody's trying to trash Justice League. But I saw one scene, one scene that leaked. I couldn't resist, where obviously turns and puts in work. I was hyped. It had me hyped. I got to go see the film now. I heard Josh Whedon messed the film up, though.
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I think basically what I've seen from the trailers, it is definitely having a total conflict between the two, and I don't know who's right in this case, because honestly, the whole point with Joss Whedon is that he basically reshot almost the entire movie, and he only had 6 months to do it. So
I don't know. I heard that he shot a few scenes. They said he shot a few scenes, but a lot of the editing he did. The movie initially was almost 3 hours. He cut the movie down to an hour
and a half. It's something less than 2 hours.
Yeah, he cut half the movie out. Yeah, most of Zack Snyder's movie was chopped in half. That's why everybody's blaming him. And it's funny because that film is now people are going back and looking at the trailers. Like, that scene wasn't in it. That scene wasn't in it. That scene was taken out. This doesn't make sense. I'm like, really? So I guess they're going to put the whole Ultimate Collection on DVD when that hits. But the movie's going to wind up bombing because so many people are upset. The crazy thing about it is that I love the cast. I love the people playing the characters. But it almost feels like they need to do a Flashpoint and reboot ASAP. They need to do a Flashpoint. It needs to be a new Batman because Ben Affleck wants out. You know what I'm saying? They need to take Superman in a different direction. Wonder Woman is kind of okay. They got to figure it out.
It's not going to happen, man.
They got to figure it out.
Whole thing's canceled. The whole DCU is canceled. No, dude, they're talking about in the U.S. less than $100 million opening for Justice League.
Yeah, that's pretty disappointing.
That's crazy.
Keep in mind, Iron Man in 2008 had a $98 million opening in the U.S. And you mean to tell me a character nobody gave a crap about, that had zero hype leading up to it, who even I hated before Robert Downey Jr. This man had a bigger movie than Justice League.
DC was doing. I'm a fan of the Man of Steel series. I know a lot of people didn't like the first film. I loved it. There's some things that I will say, yeah, there's a gripe here or there. And I like the way they're building Superman, a young Superman who's trying to learn how to be a hero in the first film, eventually becoming a hero in Justice League, which is basically what I'm hearing he is. But, and Wonder Woman did well. All these other characters, I don't know what direction they can take Batman, where they can take Wonder Woman going forward. She wants Ratner off the film, who put up the money for the first Wonder Woman because of his sexual harassment allegations. There's a lot happening. The universe is disappointing because not that Marvel isn't great, but Marvel to me just has become a comedy spectacle. And I really blame the Galaxy for that. I really do. And Guardians of the Galaxy is great. It works for that group because it's such an 80s type film because of everything that happened in the 80s when he got kidnapped, the music, the way things play out. It's really cool and the group works together. But, the rest of the film seemed to follow that comedy aspect where everybody's kind of joking, happy-go-lucky, then you fight some people here and there, especially Thor. The last Thor Ragnarok, which I heard was amazing. I didn't see it yet, but from the commercials and everything I've seen, it just seems like a buddy film. It's a buddy film, and it's just weird that they're taking these hero movies in that direction. So I think
part of the thing with the issue with Thor was largely because they tried the serious route.
Yeah, the second movie,
1 and 2, and nobody liked it.
Nobody liked those movies.
And so it's fine. Crazy. Here you go. We'll throw the Hulk in there. We'll make it a Thor Ragnarok, aka Planet Hulk spinoff. Like,
basically, yeah, that's basically what it is. Oh man, I don't know, man. I if they do reboot DC, I hope they find great people. Seems like when it comes to DC animated films, whoever's doing those films, they need to make them do movies because they know what they're doing.
You watch the recent stuff? Nah, it's not as good as it used to be, man.
What? DC? Sad. Which one? Which ones? Not War. War was amazing.
War was okay. It was just like it wasn't as good as the the OG stuff, man. It wasn't as good as the original Justice League.
War was great because it focused on the New 52. I thought it was.
You watched Killing Joke? You watched the Killing Joke?
I watched Killing Joke. Killing Joke was pretty good.
It wasn't good either.
Killing Joke wasn't that bad. It was overhyped. I'll give you that. Like all right.
Well, it's the first R. It was the first R-rated DC animated movie, and it was garbage. I'm just saying, like
Marvel's
this
animated
whole first
movies
part
don't touch DC's animated films, but their movies seem to surpass DC's, and it's pretty telling, man. They really need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out pretty quickly.
And they pissed all over. They pissed all over Batgirl. They literally had the first half of the movie, Batman's getting down with Batgirl. It's like, what? And then it's like, oh yeah, Joker's in this movie. I guess we should do that now for 40 minutes.
That's funny. All right, let's get into the show, man. I do apologize. We kind of went off on a tangent here. That's what happens when you get gamers who love comics, superheroes, and anime all in a room together, man. We just start rambling about stuff that interests us. So, all right, let's begin the show. To the Inner Circle podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox. I'm your host, KOR SKLL, with B Money 101.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's great to be back.
And Anchorman V.
Hey, everybody. Let's get started.
And we are the Inner Circle. So, listen, man, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. We truly appreciate the support. But we're going to get into this talk with EA first before we jump into Xbox. I want to talk about EA because, once again, the gamer and the power of the dollar, the power of the voice, the power of social media has once again made an impact on a developer and has tried to make them change direction with their games or change direction with their product, shall I say. Let me not say game, just with their product in general, to the point that even Disney themselves have gotten involved. So we all know about EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2. We've heard about the microtransactions. We've heard about the loot boxes. We've heard about people playing hours upon hours and investing money into this game just to get certain items and certain characters. It's funny. I remember seeing a meme where one guy is playing the meme shows Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is like, Anakin, don't you do it. And Anakin's like, you're making me do this. Why are you making me do this? And they go to another meme, and it's EA, like an EA symbol, and the Anakin has money, and he's paying the EA symbol, and he transforms into Darth Vader, and now he's Darth Vader fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi, basically saying that he paid for the upgrade. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi, spent hours upon hours becoming Obi-Wan Kenobi and being his master or whatever. So it just was funny and ironic seeing that.
I saw the same thing, but in reverse. It had it has the scene like in what was it, episode 3. Where like right there at the end where he hops over Anakin and he's like, you've already lost, Anakin. I've purchased the high ground.
You're making me it was so funny when I saw it. It was like, you're making me do this. And it was funny because when he transformed to Darth Vader, that's then they kind of showed the cloak of the original New Hope film, and where he hits Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan just disappears because he dies or whatever, and he becomes a part of the Force, and it's just the cloak standing there. It's just funny. But yeah, EA obviously has done something to rub the Star Wars fan base the wrong way, and they tried to make drastic changes at the last minute. This has affected their review scores. I think about all the promotion they put into pushing the campaign, getting the actress, I forget her name, something
Janaya or something like that.
Yeah, Janaya Gavin Carr or something like that. And they had her out there and it was pushing her, and then you had what's the guy's name from Kinda Funny? The guy who used to work on the PlayStation show. No, not Colin, not Greg. Dwyer, something like that.
Oh, not Danny Dwyer. I can't
remember. Anyway,
yeah.
but you had this guy, and he had an actual huge part as a writer for the new story.
Mitch Dyer. Mitch Dyer.
Yeah, there you go, Mitch Dyer. Right. So Mitch Dyer is involved. He has this big role within in the actual writing of the dialogue of the story. On top of that, they made this canon. This is what's crazy. They made part of the story of what happens after the Emperor dies, in between basically the end of the Skywalker franchise going into the new franchise with Rey and all of them. And in between that, this game is that stopgap. And no one cares. Nobody gives a damn. You know what I'm saying? About that whole aspect of that. It's just about the multiplayer. And I almost feel like they should have just sold the single player separately. They should have just made a single player game and sold it, because everybody's going to miss out on this game, or the Xbox fans will wait for it to hit EA access. It's just crazy situation. But the gamers, once again, have spoken with their wallet, spoken with their voice, harass enough developers. And just to finish up, it's ironic because when we're on social media, we watch people harass developers. And as gamers, it's cringy. It's absolutely cringy to see developers get threatened, to see publishers and developers have their work kind of trash after putting years into something that might not even be in their control. And yet it seems people do it because there's progress. There's something that's actually happy, regardless of how negative the dialogue is. You see the publishers and the developers responding. They're going on Reddit. They're trying to make their point reasonable, make people understand. The publisher is making changes with the microtransactions. They're stopping them. They're going to trickle them in very slowly. They're going to reactivate them later. But right now, when you come in, you just buy the game and that's it. And I don't think you ever get people that will stop trashing developers for the things that they don't like, because they see the impact that social media has and how they can make changes. And that's happened both to Xbox now, and now has happened to EA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think part of it too was just that I think a lot of it was, I think Disney did have some sort of influence on this in particular, because Disney right now has been getting very protective about their IPs. Like if there's a negative thing going on, you can expect them to respond. You can expect them to be there, say what's going on here. Like, you don't get just a free license to do what you want here. We need to see some dividends.
Right.
And I just, especially because the whole fake developer thing, which also happened this week, with the guy trying to say, "Oh, I got all these death threats." I mean, yeah, I think that definitely had a part of something to do with it, in terms of how critical reception kind of came down from the community. But I mean, it's definitely something where if gamers speak up about something, things will happen eventually.
Right.
Yeah, man. I just, when I look at the situation, I look at EA with a side eye, because I mean, if you just look at their track record for past couple of years, they've just been making some silly decisions. You know what I mean? If Mirror's Edge came out, that was pretty much like a throwaway. They put Titanfall 2 out there between two major shooter franchises, competing with themselves. They put Mass Effect out there, let the B team make it. That hits massive effect to the game. You know what I mean? No pun intended. That game is pretty much dead. You know what I mean? And then, we run into this situation. They close up Visceral. by Respawn. Like, they've just been making some silly decisions, and for them to throw all these crazy microtransactions into the game, and I think there was a post when the game first came out, and they said it probably could take you up to like 4,000 hours, to unlock everything in the game. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
And it's nice that the consumer stood up, you know what I mean, and we all voiced our opinions and voted with our wallets, like you mentioned, because, you know what I mean, it's there's got to be a stopping point. And we can't continue to be taken advantage of as consumers. You know what I mean? Everyone, as a consumer, has a choice, to vote with their wallet if they want to, dive into microtransactions or whatever the case may be. But, we can't let it get too far. And I think EA was definitely testing the waters and trying to see how far they could take it.
Now, our editor-in-chief over at TICGN is in chat right now, and he kind of gave us a heads up on some things. And one of the things he said was that there's an article right now on VentureBeat reporting that DICE wanted cosmetic loot boxes like Overwatch, and it was Lucasfilm that pushed for what we saw in Battlefront 2. And that's crazy. And that seems like Disney is involved in that, because obviously they own Lucasfilms now at this point. And if they're involved thinking that they can make money, they might have killed their own franchise before it even started. And that's not good. That's not good at all. I mean, obviously the best way to go is exactly the Overwatch way, where it's kind of like, there's things that's not going to help you. Anything that's going to help you progression-wise, as far as being able to compete competitively, should always be something you're able to get in-game through playing, whether it's XP, whether it's, loot that's collected, money, whatever it is that allows you to purchase things in-game. That's the way to go. Loot any type of boxes where you're getting random items and things like that. It should always be, in my opinion, should be cosmetic features, things that either make you look really cool, things that don't affect you personally, that makes you more powerful, anything like that, because it really sucks. You're playing for hours and hours and hours, and the games that the things that you want, the items that you want, just never appear. Anchor, do you think Overwatch does a good job at loot boxes and kind of catering to their fans the right way, kind of playing on the edge without going overboard?
As a person who's about to hit level 200 in Overwatch, I would say yes.
Wow.
Actually,
wow.
I'm actually pretty low tier, so that's actually the sad thing about it. Everyone else is like at least 500 or higher. Like it's they play way too much. They play more than I do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's definitely something I find with Overwatch in particular. Like, loot boxes, they weren't the first to do loot boxes. Like, we'll be honest here. Like, everyone was kind of leaning more towards this model anyway. Like, we started seeing the whole pack model and that kind of stuff popping up. But Overwatch really made it so it was a tolerable experience where, first of all, everything was only cosmetic. And so people are a little more willing to put up with that. If you actually made it so upgradable stuff was done only via loot box, then there would be an issue with Overwatch. But in this particular, with Overwatch, what they did is they made sure it was fine. Like, you were pretty much guaranteed to get a loot box. Like, okay, now if once you get to the prestige levels, it's like 20,000 experience to get there, and like that's like you might make less than just barely under 5,000 a match. So that's every 4 matches you're getting a loot box. You're leveling up. And that's not including like getting free loot boxes for just playing like arcade mode or during an event or something. It's really easy to get loot boxes, and so that's where the particular issues. Now, if it was something, if EA had only made it where it's only cosmetic, I think people wouldn't have as much of an issue with it. But again, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, I think in a game where you can only have cosmetics, I don't play too much Overwatch, but I've dove in there. But a game that I do play a lot of is Rainbow Six, and I think they do a great job with just the extra cosmetic things that they have on there. You earn credits by playing, and you know, just unlock, you know, different gun skins or different player skins or masks or things like that. And it's not anything that it's game breaking or anything like that. It's just something that you can throw on your character and kind of have fun with. So there's definitely a right way to do it, and EA chose the wrong way, in my opinion.
That's right.
Somebody says that they should raise the price. I read this recently. Someone said that they should raise the price to $80 and just drop all DLC microtransactions. I don't think that's even enough. That's not enough. I don't think people understand the point of microtransactions. But I mean, I don't think people understand what microtransactions does for a developer. Like, if you buy the game outright for $80, but your expected sales don't hit what you want, then that game you don't recoup any money. Even if the game flops, you don't recoup any money. But if the game flops, if it undersells, but you have microtransactions in it, you have items that people can use to get ahead. People like Destiny, for example, is a game where there is limited amount of items that you can purchase. But in order to get those items, you have to buy a certain type of currency, which is dust or silver, which allows you to get these little loot box crystals. And when you crack them open, you get little items. You know, you might get a dance, an emoji, you might get dust, which allows you to purchase other items and stuff like that. But that's all random. You don't know what you're going to get out of that box. And people spend $10 here, $5 here, $10 here. But if you say, for example, if that game doesn't sell well, let's say it doesn't sell well, but you have people in the game that's trying to get ahead in that game, they're spending more than just the $80. And that's that person's prerogative. That's their option to do that. Me personally, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? If I get lucky, I get lucky. Normally, I sell ships that I don't use, which gives me the bonus dust to get what I want, or I play until I level up and get, you know, the I forget what it's called, the light gem, which allows me to go and then unlock it or whatever. So, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like microtransactions allow them to get the people who are interested in investing in microtransactions and make more money than they would if they just sold the game for $20. I mean, $20 more and got an extra $20 on a sale. You know what I'm saying? That the microtransactions always supersedes it.
What people have to understand is that if you're talking about increasing the price of the game, you know what's going to happen? People aren't going to buy it, and they're just going to pick it up used.
Yep.
And see, this is the big issue. If you're a producer or you're working in marketing for the publisher or something like that, and you're trying to find a way, how do you make money off of used game sales? And that has been the biggest issue for the last 10 years. How do you make money off of a used game? And we tried. EA tried it, and a couple of people did too. Where with the online passes, where you say, "Oh, you can buy it used, but you got to pay us $10 to get back online." And we said, hell no, we're not doing that. So we didn't like that. So they backtracked on that. And so this is the only other model. Optional microtransaction.
That's when they, started doing a season pass. You know what I mean? That's when season passes became pretty dominant after EA tried to do their online pass. So then after that, every game has season passes. And now we're at microtransactions. So, you know, the cycle will continue. It'll be something else, you know, soon, but microtransactions is the hot thing right now.
It's going to be the hot thing going forward in the future. I think people need to just get used to it. I don't think it will change. Some companies may make adjustments, but I don't see it ever change. I think DLC, as long as, I think the biggest problem most people have gripes with is anything where the ending content is a part of the DLC ending. You know,
like
leave
Mass
the ending
Effect
alone.
Andromeda.
I don't know nothing about that
for
yet.
You.
You already spoiled it. I didn't know that. You already spoiled it.
This is a known thing. They blatantly tease the Quarian arc, which they canceled all the DLC for, so that's never happening.
I know nothing about that.
Well, get used to it now. I don't want you complaining about this on Twitter later. So
this guy is the worst.
Get used to it.
Yeah, let me find out the end to the next Fallout game. Oh man, Jesus!
You can go ahead and try.
All right. So, moving on. listen, I want to talk about the Game Awards real quick. Touch on a few things. Jeff Keighley again. A lot of people don't like Jeff Keighley. A lot of Xbox fans don't like Jeff Keighley. I noticed some fans going crazy about the VGA announcements on Twitter, saying it's a PlayStation Fest and stuff like that. Listen, I'm a gamer first and foremost. Xbox is my platform of choice. I love the console. I love the community, but I'm not stupid. I'm not, come on. I'm not gonna sit here and make up some excuse like, oh my god, this game didn't get nominated, yada yada yada. Bro, Sony dropped so many games earlier in the year. Party or first party, they dropped a ton of games that was exclusive on the platform. So to sit there and say, "Oh, it's a PlayStation award show," stupid, because
they only have
they had the majority of all the games. Yeah, like nah, dude, they had Persona 5.
There's only one. That's it. Well, they didn't publish that, but
they didn't publish it. But that's what I'm saying, though. But that game was exclusively on PlayStation. They had Persona 5. They had Nier. They had Horizon Zero Dawn. They had Neo. Like, there's a lot of games. They had what's the Hell game? What's it called? Hellblade. Like, there's a lot of games. I'm not even gonna lie. And don't get me wrong, some of those games I'm not my cup of tea. But I'm not sitting up here gonna be blatantly ignorant and be like, oh, they didn't just have 3 of, let's say, the top 5, top 10 games that were pretty good this year, that were highly rated this year. Like, that's just ignorant. That's like really dumb at this point. So I just find it weird that people are getting on Jeff Keighley about that. And I get it,
And you can't ignore Nintendo, man. They in a lot of those categories too.
Nintendo's in there. Yeah, Zelda, Mario. Yeah, without question. It's in there as well. But I think it's just because, the rivalry between Xbox and PlayStation, and Xbox just had a terrible year. There's nothing except for Cuphead. And obviously
Halo Wars. Halo Wars was nominated.
RTS category, sure.
There is it's best. Okay. Was it best strategy game?
All right. Well, if it's there, hopefully it's nominated. Again, I'm not trying to trash Halo Wars. I'm not a Halo Wars fan. I don't play RTSs, so it's not my cup of tea. But listen, at the end of the day, it comes down to what Microsoft presented, and it just wasn't much. You're really forcing their hand at this point, trying to get them to push something. Now, if Cuphead wins Best Indie Game, which I think it should win Best Indie Game, then kudos to Microsoft. They got an award. They deserve it. Forza 7 will probably win Best Racer. More than likely, it's the highest rated racer that's released this year, so more than likely it'll probably win that as well. But Game of the Year, man, it's probably going to go to Zelda. Mario, I can't see it not going there. We'll show before his event starts, try to pick his brain on that and then see how that went, and try to have a conversation with him about that and everything like that. But what do you guys think about this, man? You think the selections that's available for the Game of the Year awards is the right choices?
I would say the whole thing is invalid because Wolfenstein 2 is not nominated. Like that's the whole thing. Like, it's honestly, though, if we're being brutally honest here, Mario Odyssey shouldn't be on that list. It just wasn't that good, man. I just beat it last weekend, and I'm like, it's a good game. It's a good Mario game. It's not Game of the Year category, though. It's not that good. But I think that one just got a free pass on there. I think Zelda will take it. But, I mean, for the most part, all the other categories and such, I mean, they're mostly fair. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn's getting pity nominations, so hey.
I think
just getting pity nominations.
I think as far as the Game of the Year nominations, I think all the games in there are rightfully deserving to be in there. Yeah, I mean, you have two of the biggest pillars from Nintendo in there with Mario and Zelda. PUBG's in there just because it's the most popular game. this year with, they did unbelievable numbers, you know what I mean, just on PC. It's not even on major consoles yet. So, that's something amazing to look at. Horizon Zero Dawn gets a nomination just because it's such a stark difference from what Guerrilla has done in the past. So a lot more eyes was on that game. What was the other nomination that was in there?
Well, there was PUBG, which is the big contentious one.
Yeah.
Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Legend of Zelda.
Nintendo games.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mario's in there.
Yeah, Mario's in there. I think, Persona is a solid game. I don't know if I would give it Game of the Year, but it's definitely was really high on a lot of people's lists and got people to play a traditional RPG again, a JRPG again. So I think that's why that's in there. Soundtrack was amazing on that game. So I think all those games are rightfully in there. Wolfenstein probably could have been thrown in there as well. But I just think it was more of a popularity contest at the end of the day. You know what I mean? What was the name on most gamers' mouth? You know what I mean? And then with Wolfenstein only coming out just a week or two ago, it just didn't have that buzz around it, I don't think, to get that nomination. But it's in there in other categories, so I think it'll definitely take home some awards.
You know, if it was a Switch exclusive, it would be on the list. They would have made room for it.
That's funny. Listen, let me ask you guys a question, because I've been having this debate about Xbox first party, PlayStation first party, and I've constantly see people on these first party as being so phenomenal, so epic, and I just don't believe it. Like, do you guys think I'm wrong? And it's an honest question. You know what I'm saying? Because what I see, and this is, if you go look at the history is what I'm saying, right? I don't see what everyone else sees. Like, I just don't. Like, I think you truly have to be. It's almost like if you're a hardcore Xbox guy and you're a 360 fan, in your mind, nobody tops Turn 10, Bungie at the time, and I won't say Lionhead, but you had the Gears of War series. So even though that wasn't first party, even though the studio was a first party, you had Epic, which at the time was a predominant studio back in the 360 era. And of course, Lionhead was up there. You had Rare; they weren't doing much, but those were prominent studios. On the other hand, with Sony, you had Sucker Punch, you had Guerrilla Games, you had Uncharted, you had Naughty Dog, you had Sony Santa Monica, and then of course you had Sony Japan. You had a couple of other smaller games, like the guys who made the what's that puppet game again?
Puppeteer.
Media Molecule.
Oh, you talking about
Media Molecule?
Oh, Sockhead.
You talking about
Little Big Planet?
Little Big Planet. Yeah, you had the Little Big Planet. You got the guys who make the Dream game, not the Dream something, whatever that studio is.
Polyphony.
The ones who make the movie games. No, and you have Polyphony.
No, not Polyphony. I forgot what it's called.
But no, Polyphony does the racing and they do GT.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
The other studio that makes the what is it, Two Souls Aside and the other game.
David Cage game.
With the and when you play the detective.
You're talking about Quantic Dream?
Quantic Dreams, there you go. And you got Quantic Dream and stuff like that. Now, here's where things get a little controversial. Most of those studios didn't produce, just based on ratings, most of those studios weren't like Naughty Dog studios. Like, they weren't, like, a lot of people put those studios in the same range as Naughty Dog. And when you go look at the history of those games, though they did well, a lot of those games wasn't rated well in comparison to some of the games that Microsoft put out back in the day. So I come full forward to this generation, and even early on, again, Guerrilla Games comes out, they drop Shadow of War. Shadow of War is okay. It's received okay. Sucker Punch's game, Infamous, again, it's just okay. It's received critically okay. We didn't, all of Quantic Dreams games get poor, like they don't review that great because they're point and click games, and most people whatever, they're not into those certain type of games. Obviously, Naughty Dog is king. Naughty Dog is always pumping out great content, whether it's Jak and Daxter, whether it's Uncharted. You have Sony Santa Monica, which does great with God of War. And then you have Polyphony, which is GT. And GT was king of racers. In my opinion, it's now been handed off to Forza, at least critically. And even sales-wise, this generation, both games haven't, GT Sport and both Forza 7 haven't been, killing anybody or blowing anything out the water. But, critically right now, Forza 7 has the edge over GT. Now, Guerrilla Games comes out, they drop Horizon, which is a completely new IP, and it came out and it looks fantastic. It played fantastic. Nothing special, nothing new to me, but it was unique. It was narrative driven, had a good story based on what I played, and it was gorgeous. The game is absolutely gorgeous. Then you turn around and mostly everything else that came out has been either handed off via third party or in some sort of way second party exclusive, like a Hellblade or a Persona 5 or a Nier Automata or a Neo or something like that, like the big titles and everything like that. So it's funny when I go back and I'm looking at all of this stuff and people keep killing me about these games. And then it's like a lot of games are VR too. And I'm not into VR like that. So if I don't have VR, and I've been seeing over the last couple of months have been VR games mostly, it really makes me question what is everybody really truly excited about. I'm not saying that Sony isn't producing. I'm not complaining about that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying a little bit overhyped. I think it's a little bit pushed because of how much Sony produce more than it is the quality of what they're producing.
I think it goes in general, though. Most exclusive games are not that good. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah, not according
No, that's according to life here. This is an Anchorman fact. This is what happens a lot of the times. This is coming from someone who's been on Xbox for a good long time. I've been playing a lot of these Sony exclusives. I just think a lot of these exclusive games are just really not that good. And they're mediocre for the most part, but I think because they might get some good critic scores or because they're exclusive, they get a little extra shine, a little extra attention, and so it has this space in people's minds where they think it's just so much better. Like I played Horizon Zero Dawn. I honestly thought this would be like the go-to game for me because it's a post-apocalyptic third-person action-adventure game with mild RPG elements, so I was immediately interested. But honestly, though, I'm just kind of like, it was okay. I had about as much fun as playing that as I did Mad Max, and I pissed off a lot of people, which Mad Max is a really good game to me. But it was like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 at best kind of game, and for whatever reason, I think partially because it was exclusive, it got that extra attention. And I think the other part about it too was just because it was Guerrilla Games who made the game, and they are not known for these kinds of games, and so it was a big deal that they were the ones who made it. So I think that definitely helped things. But at the same time, I don't want to. I think like Halo's a good shooter nowadays, but it's not like the best thing ever. Same with Gears, same with a lot of other games. Like, see, I don't understand why people hold to this extra standard. I think the only game you could make the case where it really is that good is probably Forza, because Forza really is that good of a racing game. I don't like racers, and I like Horizon.
You mean, yeah, Forza Horizon. Yeah, Forza Horizon is really that good. Those are classic. Like, I think when we look back at those games in the future, I think we'll put them in the same category of how people feel about them in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, that's a classic game. They really need to bring back Forza Horizon. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll look at it like that. Like, Forza Horizon was epic back in the day. One of those type of things. Yeah, man. Yeah. B, you get your thoughts?
I mean, when it comes to first party, like each company, you know what I mean, the first party it's for the hardcore. You're you know what I mean, you're a hardcore fan on each base, you know what I mean? So each exclusive that you release or each each game that's released from first party or second party is really for, you know what I mean, a hardcore fan, and it kind of, you know, fills a niche, you know, for those fans. So, you know, it's kind of hard to look at them objectively and say, you know, that one is better than the other. I mean, we can look at scores and things like that, and you know, you can kind of, you know, see that the masses are, you know, saying one thing or another. But if you just look at first party, I think neither one of them have had like great output. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the games that have come out have been, you know, from second party developers or, you know, third party developers, you know, that kind of keep pumping out the action. So, you know, I mean, a lot of people's, you know, favorite games are third party games or, you know, released from second party. It just depends on, you know, what platform it's released on. So, I mean, I think both first parties could definitely do some improvement. You know what I mean? If you're just looking at Xbox and PlayStation. And I think we're kind of headed towards that. You know, Sony should have a pretty big year with their first party next year. And we've heard some talks, you know, from Phil about him strengthening the first party. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I think, you know, both of them have done an all right job, but they definitely, you know, can make some improvements.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just feel like there's a double standard in the way. I feel like Microsoft don't get enough credit for, regardless if it's the same titles over and over, there's a formula behind Halo, Gears, Forza, and even last generation with what they had, especially even in the smaller space. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Microsoft doesn't get enough credit for the studios that they have and the quality that they put in. Whether you like the game or not, the quality is there. The ratings are there. Like, they put out pretty good quality content. And yes, they've relied heavily on third party this generation, just like Sony. And some of their biggest games, like Sunset Overdrive, was third party. But, you know, again, I Turn 10 delivers. The Coalition's a new studio. And they worked on Gears of War. This Gears of War was received critically well. It may not have been successful as far as sales is concerned in comparison to the other Gears, but I also want people to consider it was a different generation. It's a different time than compared to now. So it's just one of those things where I get it all the time. I hear it all the time. People, you know, I have conversations with everybody, and it's like, oh, so, you know, first party is so amazing, da da da. And I'm just constantly like the only ones that I can see that's great is Naughty Dog. Like, they're the only ones. And Guerrilla Games is good now because they had a second opportunity to really make an impact on Horizon and produce something new. So a lot of credit goes to them. And we'll see what Sucker Punch does with this new title. And hopefully it really gets them in the upper echelon too. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that their studios are bad. Those games could appeal to a plethora of people that feel those games are phenomenal. It's just, for me personally, I get kind of offended when it's like, and I don't know why I do, maybe because I'm an Xbox guy and stuff like that, and I don't like to go back and forth like I work for the company, I'm getting paid by the company, I'm not a spokesman. But, you know, I guess fanboys are fanboys, so, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, I get where you're coming from, but logically, I can't see what you're saying. Like, to me, your point is mute based on what I've seen in the output. So it's just one of those things, but it's like, it's pretty crazy. We'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully both studios is great. The only company I know that's been consistent with first party and has been dropping bombs all the time is Nintendo.
Yeah.
They're the only ones.
They got the biggest, you know, first party studios that are out there. Yeah, I mean, the most historic, the most well known. You know what I mean? When you can say Mario to anybody, and most people know what it is and know that's a Nintendo property. So,
right,
you know what I mean? They've been doing it the longest, so they got the history out there, and, you know, they got that recognition.
Right. Like, was it the last bad game they shipped? And like, this is semi-objectively speaking here, was Mario Party for the 3DS. Yeah. Like, the last Mario Party was pretty bad. Like, other than that, though, I mean, like, it's consistent with them. They put out good work.
They got that go seal,
Kirby.
man. They got that go seal, and they gonna live by that. You know what I mean? They put that on all the old games back on the NES, and stay true to that. So, they ain't gonna put out a game that ain't finished or, that's broken or anything like that. It's usually got that seal of approval before it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, just real quick. Shout out to my man. Shout out to my man TF God, man. He's a big supporter of Tick. He shows up every night. He doesn't like that I put down Infamous, but Infamous trash, bro. Like I'm sorry, I can't. I tried playing the game though, like multiple. I even beat the first one. The game is just so repetitive. It's cool. The concept is cool, man. It's beyond repetitive. I can't do it. I can't do it. Anyway,
that was one of those games that survived simply because there was nothing else to play.
I agree with that. It's just one of those things, but the game is just so repetitive. It's just an over and over thing. Whether the game has a good story, which it did have a good story, but I mean, damn, it was Rise level of being repetitive. I'm about to say competitive. Being repetitive is just over time. I just I can't take it. So we're gonna go ahead and move on from that. Microsoft drops the Xbox One X. Now we have Randall Thorne here. I told him when we came back from E3, the hype was real. People were like all up on the Xbox One X. They were like, I'm picking it up. There wasn't a person that I met that was not interested in the Xbox One X. And despite all of the hoopla on social media and all of the people out there that's been trying to put the console down or find ways to question why you should buy the Xbox One X, the Xbox One X seems to be exceeded expectations for both Microsoft and everybody who has bought the Xbox One X seem to be certainly surprised at what it's capable of and certainly impressed with what it can do. A lot of people are playing, even though the games are older and they're old games, a lot of people are playing older and old games, but they feel fresh. They feel new. They're playing better. And in some instances, even if you don't get the patch, some games are running better, like Witcher 3, whereas if you don't patch it per second out of that game at 1080p, that's a big, not 1080p, at 900p, excuse me, because it's locked. But you get 60 frames per second at 900p out of that, which is really impressive. And obviously it's going to be up-resed to 4K, so you get super sampling or whatever it is. But listen, I just think that the console's doing well. And it did, I believe it sold, 80,000 units in a week in the UK. And according to, I forget the name of the company that did it, not only did it match the Switch when it came to the sales of the console at launch in that week, it outsold the PS4 Pro, and it took the PS4 Pro 4 weeks just to get to 80,000 units sold in the UK. And that's a big deal. And according to Aaron Greenberg, who's the head of first-party games marketing, he said it's much, much bigger in the US. I don't know if that's a win, but it feels like a win for Xbox. It really does, because they didn't expect the console to sell that well. They even tried to downplay it by saying, it's a luxury console. It's for people who want the best, who's going to invest in it. It's for the hardcore. The Xbox One S is still going to be the console that kind of is the one that gets the majority of sales. And again, this could just be launch week numbers or whatever, but right now, man, it looked like it's doing great. And everybody is talking about it, and everybody looks like they're going to be trying to pick it up.
Yeah, I finally picked mine up last Sunday. Shout out to GameStop and the crazy flip credit that I had, from earlier in the year. But I finally tracked one down and picked it up on Sunday. And I will say I'm pretty impressed with the console. I haven't got a chance to play too many games on it, but I messed around with some stuff just to go back and look to see, what the difference was and how the games looked. I tried out Dead Space, and Dead Space looks pretty good with the up-res. That looks pretty good. Played Cuphead for a little while. Wasn't too much of a difference there. Just, running the game in 4K on the 4K screen looked pretty nice. Played Madden and NBA Live. Both of those games look pretty nice running in 4K. So Pretty impressed with the console. Watched a lot of just 4K content on it. You know what I mean? Just to see, what it looks like. A lot of people were complaining about the 4K player, and I seen some issues with it, but it wasn't anything that disrupted the experience. So I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I will say, like, at least on this front, the more games I've played, it's fun to see which games are like having the biggest advantage out of it, and like even the ones I'm seeing like the biggest comebacks from has got it. Like right now, the biggest one for me is Dead by Daylight. Like, that has no patch on it, but it runs so much better. Like before, like if you were trying to play as like the Huntress, anyone who had like some long range capabilities, it was basically unplayable. You couldn't hit anybody. And I used to think it was just the net code, but no, it was really just because the game ran like crap. And so, like, if you're playing on an X, you have an advantage over somebody. You can actually hit somebody. And, like, I'm noticing this right now, too, like with Overwatch, which they released a new character, Moira. You load into your game faster. And when you load into the game first, you can pick anybody you want. Because before, it's always a mad dash for the new character. Somebody wants to play as a new character. But you're loading into the match first, and you get to pick who you want. You have at least a clear 10 seconds before anybody else gets in. And you're already picking who you want.
Right.
There's an actual advantage.
Do you listen? I don't know what is the success mark for Microsoft with the Xbox One X. Like, I don't know if they sell 1 million consoles by the end of this holiday season, and do they find that to be a huge success? Right now, it almost feels like everybody has one. You know what I'm saying? Then again, the majority of my timeline is Xbox people, so all I get is Xbox stuff all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I do find it funny. But even then, like when I speak to some of my friends, like one of my closest friend, he's like, I'm gonna get the X, but I want to get a 4K TV first, 80p TV or whatever, and he's had it for a long time and everything. But he wants to really go all in, so he plans to get one this not Black Friday, but this Christmas or whatever. When he picks up the X, he wants to pick up his TV too, and it even has me looking at TVs because I have my Vizio. When I bought mine last year, when the X came out, because I wanted to get that res bump and I wanted games and it's not a true native 4K, but you get movies in native 4K. So I wanted to be able to watch movies in 4K. So I just picked up a cheap Vizio. Now I'm looking at some of these budget TVs that are really great quality, like the TCLs and like I said, the LGs that I spoke about earlier. And I'm just really. But the Xbox is making me do this. This is the thing. Like the Xbox One X makes me want to go out and pick up a new TV. And I think that's exactly what Phil Spencer and guys like Al Pernello said, that you want to go out and find a television so you can take full advantage of what this thing can do. So hearing that it's sold so well, at least in the UK, is great. In Japan, obviously, it clearly, I don't know what Microsoft did. It was if they only put 2,000 consoles out there, but yeah, it sold out because it only sold like 1,000 consoles. It was only like 1,000 units out there. It wasn't much, maybe 2 or 3 per store, and it clearly doesn't have an impact on the Japanese at all. The Japanese right now is all about Nintendo. They're all about the Switch, and that's where their heart is at this point. I don't think Microsoft should give up. I know some Xbox fans, they should say they should give up on Japan. I don't think they should give up on Japan. But you can't recognize that they have no interest in your console. And again, I think we've had this talk before. They need to really start investing in Western developers and building their own first party and working more with Western developers and trying to make these exclusive deals and get these guys to work on their platform and not really worry about the Japanese. Because it just seems like they're going to stick with this because obviously, that's the way things are. So, and also Xbox doesn't have much to offer the Japanese as far as games and what appeals to that demographic. So just one of those things, man, where Microsoft seems to be on the come up. If Phil Spencer can deliver first party improvement titles, and they could take some time and kind of let Forza settle a bit, let Gear settle a bit, let Halo settle just a bit. Not saying you have to put those things on ice, but let them settle and bring out the new IPs along with what they're working on. Microsoft, they have something special for at least 2, maybe 3 years before PS5 comes out, and then we're on to the next Xbox. So we'll see what happens there. But what do you think Microsoft needs, at least in the public eye, to do console in order to be successful to both the public and themselves?
First thing they got to do, well, this is more of a mixture of what I think they should do and what they're going to do. I think what they should do is be showing off some of those exclusive experiences you can only get on Xbox, and then show the difference with the X. But what I think they're going to do, and I think you're going to start seeing it first at the Game Awards, because I'm going to tell you, Jeff Keighley's probably got something with PUBG, and they're probably going to show off some X enhancements. So, timing. So you take a look at that. But I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to see more and more games are going to come out, and you're going to see, like, even though Sony's got the marketing, Microsoft's going to say, but look at the enhancements we have, the best version. And they're going to keep ramming that down your throats. You're going to see it with Red Dead Redemption 2. They're going to say, oh, look at it. Oh, look at it. It's so amazing. It's all on PlayStation. It's a PlayStation marketed game. And then it's going to say, but the best version's going to be on Xbox One X.
Why you sound so
they're going to show you. That's what they're going to do. They're going to ram that down your throat for the next year and a half, 2 years. So get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can see it happening.
I can see them doing that, but that's not the angle I would actually go after. You know what I mean? Like, for me, just show off games. You know what I mean? Just show off all the games you have coming out. You don't have to, you know what I mean, say that you have the best experience, or, you know what I mean, the games look the best because you have these enhancements. Just show them off. The proof's going to be in the pudding. If your games look better and Digital Foundry continues to put out the analysis saying that the game is better, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. But until they really start showing off games, it's going to be tougher for them. They'll get a lot of people just because the games look better or they're enhanced, but you know, I don't know if that'll sway the masses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They need something on Xbox that's a big IP that looks realistic. You know what I mean? That really shows off the power. And once they do that, they'll get people, you know what I mean, peeking over the fence like, oh, you know what I mean, look what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Because right now they got all the tech enthusiasts, all the people who are hardcore, all the people who are like, you know what I mean, who really are into gaming. Everybody's got an X. You know what I mean? We jumped on the bandwagon first. You know what I mean? Just because we know what the console can do and the potential of the console. But if you want more people taking a look at it, you got to show it off. You know what I mean? Just you know, just like an auto show, when they show off all the new fancy cars, you can't get your hands on it just yet, but it's coming later on in the year. They need to do that with their games too.
Right. Listen, we've been talking about Microsoft trying to tap into the Japanese market since we had Phil on the show. Yeah. And Phil said, you know, he was going to talk to people or whatever. We haven't seen it. I feel like it's funny because I feel like Square Enix being on there is what is a natural thing because Square is so big as a AAA publisher. Like, that's like kind of a natural thing. It's almost like Bandai Namco. It's like they're like the biggest Japanese studio you could think of is Capcom too. A Capcom game not coming to Xbox is like almost blasphemy in a way because they were a big company and most of the games were always multi-plat. So when these games that come out from like Atlas and the Tales series and things like that, when we don't get those games, and I'm questioning like, well, what happened? You had that input, you had that output with the 360, which is what made me fall in love with the 360 so much, and why I switched to the Xbox brand from PlayStation brand was because of those games. It was because of the Lost Odysseys and the Blue Dragons and the Tales of Vesperias and stuff like that. And you're not getting it this generation because people you fumbled your release. I also thought that ergonomically it didn't fit the Japanese household, and it was overly expensive in comparison to the PlayStation. And so it's just one of those things. And to top it off, the Japanese are a moving demographic. They're constantly moving because people are always working, people are always doing something. You ever seen their trains? The amount of people, it's like a sardine moving on rails. Everybody's packed on a train trying to go from point A to point B. It's just so overpopulated. It's crazy. And so it's just one of those things where Microsoft not being popular or being even relevant in Japan has a huge impact on what we get in the West. And then the gamers in the West, most Xbox gamers don't care about Japanese games. At least this is what you see. That do love the JRPGs, that love the Japanese culture, and do love the Japanese games. It's a very niche product for us. And we're a part of the demographic that buys the game, and the damn thing only sells like, 100,000 or 50,000. And they're like, dude, it's not worth it. And we don't get the games. And yet we're sitting here begging for them. So it's tough. It's tough on Microsoft. It's tough on Japan. I always feel like Microsoft needs to make their own Japanese studio, first party studio, and just pump out their own Japanese exclusives. That's the best way they can. But if I was them, if you're going to be making new studios and acquiring studios, how to make a studio that is something that's going to build things you don't have. You know what I'm saying? You don't make a studio to make the same stuff you already have. You don't make a studio to come out with a new first-person shooter or a new third-person shooter or a new racing game or a new game that deals with racing but in a different way. You need adventure games, RPG games, horror games, hack and slash titles. You know what I'm saying? You can even dabble in that stupid Aquatic Dreams crap, which I hate. I wouldn't buy it, but I would take it just because it's something diverse. Click genre and everything like that. So it's one of those things where I think Microsoft really needs to look at their weak points and take advantage of those weak points. It's the reason why people keep asking for a Rise sequel. And they need to really start to invest in those titles, and they really need to look at what they're not getting in Japan and figure out a way to get it on the Xbox exclusively, and whether it's PC, Steam, whatever you got to do, but make sure you get it on that console exclusively to make sure your console is diverse and it consistently appeals to everybody. Because the great thing about PlayStation isn't that PlayStation is selling massive amounts of numbers when it comes to their games. It's the fact that it's the ultimate niche console. Everybody knows that there's a billion games on PlayStation, and those billion games may not sell millions, but the console's going to sell millions because everybody knows all the games they love is on there. So all the niche games get bought regardless, and all the niche players are on there because those are where the niche games are. You know what I'm saying? So Microsoft should really look at it from that perspective and try to grab some of that niche market.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Totally agree.
Yeah. So before we head on out of here, man, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I truly appreciate the support. Give us a thumbs up. If you like the show, make sure you give us a subscribe. We are the premier podcast for Xbox for TICGN. You guys available to do a Q&A? We haven't done a Q&A in a while. I want to knock out one if we possibly can. We got a lot of people in here, and I know some guys got questions and stuff like that. So sure. We'll try to knock one out as soon as we can. But for the most part, man, that's it for the show this week. I'm excited about this possible Superman Rocksteady game. I can't wait to see what they do with it. I'm very nervous as a Superman fanboy. I'm very nervous about that. So I don't know what's going to go on with that.
As you should be.
Shut up.
Because Shazam's about to destroy him. He's going to get an actual movie before Superman gets a sequel.
there are times like this that I wish I had a cam so you could see my face right now. Like Shazam. Okay. But listen, I think that he does a good job with that game. Did you guys see Punisher? Punisher just dropped on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet. I heard it's fire.
Yeah, I'm on episode 10, man. It's dope. It's dope. It's real dope.
I got to check that out as soon as possible. What? You got a great Anchor?
No, I got to get around to it. My thing right now is I'm trying to finish a bunch of things. Like I just finished the Call of Duty World War II campaign. I'm doing Observer, and I've been forcing myself to watch Rogue One. Jesus, that movie's horrible. I can't get it.
Well, I've been doing nothing but playing Mass Effect. I just picked up Wolfenstein.
Yes.
My boy just picked up Assassin's Creed, and I picked up the what is the name of that game? What's the game with the dude that teleports with the mask?
About Dishonored?
That's what it's called, Dishonored? I always get For Honor and Dishonored mixed up. Yeah.
I picked up Dishonored. I was like, what?
Yeah. I picked up the Dishonored bundle for $32. So all 3 games.
Oh, yeah. That's a great deal too. All 3 games for $32.
Yeah, that was a good deal.
Man. Can't pass up on that.
That's a good deal.
And I'd never played them before, so once I finish Mass Effect, I'm going to beat Gears of War, and then I'm going to jump on either that or Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein. I'm going to try to knock out all those games before the year is up. So, again, listen, man, I'm going to go ahead and end the show for our MP3 crowd. I do apologize to those guys out there looking for the latest shows via MP3. I've been super busy and backed up with the holidays here, so I haven't been able to get those out, but I'm going to do my best to try to make sure I get as many episodes up for those out there who listen via MP3. Guys, go ahead and start leaving your questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and end the show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to the Iron Lord podcast on the Lord's Day and hang out with Lord Cognito and team. These guys do a great job on Sundays, man. Get you prepped up and repped up for all the gaming information and content that's out there. Lots of laugh, lots of joy, lots of love right before football starts, and tune into that. Make sure you check out Multiverse. Man, the team, as these guys start to break down Justice League and all of these movies and comics and superheroes and animes and all that good stuff, man. Plus the goodest thing of all, games. So make sure you check them out. And of course, hang out with my man Fame Entertainment on his channel, or stay on this channel on Tick Network and check out 2XP Podcast with him, the Xbox guy, and my man Nicodemus X, the PlayStation guy, as those guys go back and forth and debate about which console is the best, Xbox or PlayStation. So again, I want to thank everybody for stopping out. Go ahead and leave your questions as we begin answering those, and I'll end the show for the MP3 crowd. Once again, I'm your host, KLRS Kal-El, the last son of Planet Xbox, with Anchorman V and B Money 101, and we are off this planet. All right. Okay. So let's get it popping, man. I want to thank everybody for stopping out. For truly do. Thank you, Fastback. I appreciate that compliment. TICGN doing great all around, man. We're trying to do our best. We've built a forum. We're working on trying to fix some of the spammers and stuff like that, man. But listen, if you guys are interested in hanging out with us, chatting with us, leaving and building a great community with TIC, make sure you go join community.ticgn.com. That is our new forum, or you can go to our website, ticgn.com, and look up it. Leave some comments, make a thread. We'll definitely comment on it, join it, check it out, and stuff like that. We really want to try to grow this awesome community for those out there that support us and follow us, so that way you don't have to go to places like a NeoGAF or a Reset Era and stuff like that. Build our own for our own.
And no, Fastback, I will not respect Star Wars when it doesn't deserve respect.
Jesus, don't get me started, all right? We have questions to answer.
Dude, it's a worthwhile thing, man. I gave Star Wars a chance. I grew up on Star Wars. I used to be really big into Star Wars. I would rewatch Return of the Jedi at least once or twice a month, sometimes on the same day. for pretty much every day. Every Sunday from I was like maybe 6 when I first saw it to at least I was like 14 or 15. Like I watched it religiously. I loved Star Wars. Yeah. I'm just not into it anymore. And watching Rogue One in particular, Rogue One is overglorified fan fiction. It's pointless. It's just filler.
Bro,
it's like we just want to come up with something.
It's cool. But that's cool to know how the Death Star was built and how. Because listen, we all sat there and watched Hope. Like, who puts a port just that size on a ship so that way it can be easily blown up? A ship of that size. Think about that for 1 second. A ship of that size has a weak spot. Destroy it doesn't make any sense. Let alone in Return of the Jedi, they were able to fly into the heart of the ship. Who has a gateway that big to fly into the heart of the ship? It's just funny, man. So it was cool to see, the way they kind of plotted that and the way they kind of set that up to have it as a weak point for something so devastating. Because if you didn't have it, you're talking about a weapon that could blow up an entire planet. And you got to give credit where credit is due. They try to play on the heartfelt strings and stuff like that with the relationships, and it was basically a suicide mission.
I want you to name me one character. Name me one new character from that movie.
I'll be honest with you, I can't.
Exactly.
I can't tell you. Garbage. But that's because it's a standalone film.
It doesn't matter. A creative character will be remembered.
The characters don't have to be creative. The standalone film is about the all-around story. I'm not good with names anyway. Shit, I forgot Cuphead's name, whatever his name is. But anyway, let's move on. All right, get the hell out of here. All right, so very quickly, Edge said, Chico says, why is the editor of the Inner Circle website so sexy? I have no idea. You're going to have to ask him that when you get an opportunity to do that. Zedpo1 says, Microsoft needs to turn Crackdown into something like GTA or Saints Row. Thoughts?
I mean, it already is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's not, though.
It's in the same vein. They need to...
It's a GTA clone.
They need to redirect.
No. It's a Saints Row clone. It's definitely not a GTA clone. Here's the premise of Crackdown. This is why I didn't like Crackdown 1. Crackdown 1 is about, or Crackdown in general is about super soldiers. And what you do is you go outside of a boss's base and you kill all of the boss's minions to the point that the boss gets pissed off. It comes out of the building, and then you fight the boss. The whole game. In the process, you build your character up by picking up orbs. You have orbs that make you jump higher, orbs that give you super strength, orbs that allow you to drive differently. In the first game, one of the cool concepts was you can get into a regular car, but if your driving skills were amazing, the car would transform into like a sports car, some type of roadster based on your driving skills, making the car faster, making the car look cooler. It was a dope concept. But genre is played out. Like that style of game is played out. You look at what's that game? Agents of Mayhem. Agents of Mayhem flopped hard as hell. And it wasn't because it was a bad game. It's just it's not Saints Row. Saints Row already exists. And even Saints Row doesn't sell well. So they really need to focus on what GTA is. They need to have a game where you go to certain destinations. There's a story that plays out. You're a superhero being a part of this, open world. You're a cop. You're doing investigations. You're trying to stop some mega city crime boss. They really should have took a different approach with this game, and instead they went back to exactly what it was, and that's why nobody is interested in it. And if they release that game the same way, it's gonna flop. I hate to say it, but it's gonna flop, and that's why I think they held off from releasing it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that the big thing is with Saints Row was the one who copied Crackdown. at least what Saints Row became to where it's a superpower deal, because it was Crackdown 1 was always about having superpowers being crazy. And honestly, I like the direction they're going back. It seems like they're going back to basics, going like, hey, have jump real high, do super strength, and that kind of stuff. But what the big thing they have to do is they got to make it fluid. If they can make it fluid, everything else will fall into place. Yeah. And that's the big thing I see them having to do.
Yeah.
I just want characters that you can care about, you know what I mean? And I think if you make the game more story-driven, that allows that to happen. I think when you just make it an open-world sandbox and you're just goofing around, it's just one of those kind of throwaway games that'll, you know, come out and people will talk about it for a minute, and then after that, it's in the bargain bin.
Right. I hear you. Let's see here. Fastback 24/7 asks, will Xbox show something new at the Game Awards show? I think they will.
You think so?
PUBG.
I think they will.
I think PUBG.
I think they'll throw.
Well,
PUBG might be out before. Well, I don't know. Maybe it won't. I think Microsoft may throw a bone. You think they'll? I think they'll throw a bone. I'm probably wrong, but I feel like them throwing a bone would keep the news momentum going for Microsoft into next year, because they don't have a conference, they don't have anything, and if something pop up, any game, even if it was CGI, like when we first saw Shanghai Heist, even if it was CGI for 3 seconds, and it was like Microsoft Studios, and then they gave us like a game title, and it don't even have to show the studio, just like the studio name, like it doesn't have to say like Coalition or something like that, just Microsoft Studios, show the name, show a 3-second snippet of the game, boom, and end. Baby moms, everybody and their baby moms will be talking about Microsoft showing off a new game. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that would be the biggest thing. But the problem with the Game Awards is that the Game Awards don't really show big games.
No,
they just show a lot of smaller indie titles. So it'd be pretty rare to see anything major coming out of there. But they're boasting like they got a lot of big stuff.
I mean, I feel like they boast every year like they got a lot of big stuff, and then we look at the awards and they got razors promos running all through the awards and a bunch of nonsense. So you know what I mean?
Like, Hydro Man.
You know what I mean? It gets pumped up every year, man. I hope there is something. You know what I mean? I think the one thing we'll see from Microsoft is I think they'll probably show off Sea of Thieves again, and kind of get people hype for that and kind of show the direction for it, or maybe show State of Decay, since that should be releasing earlier. I would love to see them show off like Crackdown multiplayer though. I think that would be something super exciting, just because it would be fully destructible environments and things like that. People have been wanting and asking for that, the entire year. So I think if they showed off something like that, that'd be pretty cool. But I wouldn't guess for them to show off anything new.
Yeah, them saying this is why we delayed it, and then show you the unadulterated carnage and be like,
right.
Well, I'm gonna see if we can try to get Jeff on the show next week. I'll hit him up and see if he's available. I told him I was gonna have him on between now and December, but I want to get him on before the award show, not after. I think if I get him on after the award show, there may be something that went wrong, and people might start getting me to try to ask him like stupid questions. So I'd rather have him on before we get to that point. But we'll see what happens with that. Edge Excel asks, do you think the upcoming Xbox game streaming service will be available on mobile or set-top boxes like Amazon Fire?
Mobile?
Well, according to Phil Spencer, according to Phil Spencer, he's talking about putting first party on multiple platforms, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. That means a lot of things, and it means nothing. I just don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that means. But if it's anything, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it on like Apple TV, or we saw like I like Game Pass having both a downloadable digital service and a streaming service that maybe you could select. That would be cool. Like you had the option. Do you want to download games? Do you want to stream games? You pick streaming, it becomes a completely different service, and you can stream games based on not based on the hardware, but based on the server. So if you have a phone, like if you are playing a game via phone, and phones are pretty powerful nowadays, it could work because the server would be running the game. You know what I'm saying? So that would be something that could be interesting, and putting that out as an app on iTunes and Android and Amazon Fire and Apple TV and all these other devices and all these other platforms, which is what they are, would be huge for Microsoft. But you have to keep them off of Nintendo, or you have to keep them off of PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? But I hate it all around. I just want Microsoft to stick with exclusive platforms. I'm a dinosaur, so I'm old school. I'd rather them just keep all their stuff on Xbox and call it a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Let's see. I just hope with the Game Awards they show Smash Bros. I want Smash Bros. On Switch. Like
you are not going to see Smash Bros. On Switch this year.
Come on. I know it's not going to come out this year, but I want to hear something about it. I want a release date.
Nope, they ain't even putting that out there yet.
Like I'm not even asking for a new one. I'm asking for I'm asking for the last game. I don't know why this is so difficult, man.
Joe Sinister asks, Microsoft seems to be interested in more ReCore. Do you think Microsoft will buy Armature Studios? These guys made games like Metroid Prime. It seems like it would be a solid get for Microsoft. And I initially thought that Microsoft was going to pick them up. And I think that would be a good pickup, honestly, if they did. Somebody said that they didn't like it based on the ratings of the games that they put out. But I just think having a studio that built one of your games that you feel confident in, and it's something you don't have. It's not only an adventure game, it's a platforming adventure game. You know what I'm saying? It kind of falls in that category of Uncharted, but just not on the level of Uncharted. But you can make it on the level of Uncharted if you invest in it, if you give it the biggest budget, if you invest in the graphics, and you invest in truly making it an open world adventure game like a Horizon Zero Dawn with these robots, you could have something special. But they need to really vary what they're doing with these machines, because everything looks the same in this game except for the bosses, and they really need to go in depth with the story. Will buy Armature, and I don't think my Armature would be up for sale. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it happen unless they made it like some crazy offer. I did put up a list of some stuff.
I don't think they should buy Armature, but I definitely think they, if they haven't already, they should definitely go into some sort of deal with them. At least to have like three.
ReCore be exclusive forever.
Yeah, like ReCore be exclusive, or at least sign to like a 3-game deal or something like that. I mean, try to put out some consistent games behind that franchise and just kind of see where it goes. I think ReCore definitely had potential. I think they just kind of ran out of time before they could get to where they were trying to go. So I'd like to see what they do with it in the future. I think that they definitely have a solid foundation that they can build upon.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I suggested, I acted like I had my Xbox hostage on Twitter, and I made a list of demands to Phil Spencer and Shannon Loftus. And I said what Microsoft needs is a AAA. They need both of these games. They need a AAA RPG. Well, I don't care if it's Western or Japanese. And they need a AAA action adventure game. It can be linear, but it needs to be good. And it needs to be story, narrative driven, with choices and things like that. Then I said they need to make an offer to Miss Walker. Like, I truly feel like Miss Walker and Microsoft belong together. This is like one of the only Japanese studios, and they're sitting there making mobile games and stuff like that. Microsoft's backing the game, like a new Blue Dragon, and it going to the Switch. I could see that, but they would still get like a new Lost Odyssey, or they would get some game that's exclusive only on the Xbox. You know what I'm saying? Because they've done work with Miss Walker before that's been on the DS. So it's just one of those things where I think that would work. I think Microsoft also, what did I say? They need to make an offer to Miss Walker, Obsidian. If Obsidian is still available for purchase, which I'm wouldn't be surprised if they haven't made an offer already. Trying to think off the top of my head what I said as well. And whatever the games that they make, please no guns. We've had enough guns. They need something with swords, something, medieval, something when it comes to like something mystical, magical. They need something like that in their library. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that Fable, so we need something to replace that need, that urge. They need something like that badly, I think, in order to push forward. If they can bring something like that, deliver something like that, and get some studios in their stable, I think Microsoft will be on the right path. Not the final path, but definitely the right path.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. I'm so many games with guns, man. It's so refreshing when you can, play RPG and play as like a wizard or something, or run around with a sword. It's refreshing, man. Every game does not have to have a gun in it.
I disagree. Every game needs to have a gun in it.
No. Oh my god, this is from the man. You know what? I can believe that.
No, here's what I want. I think they just need to have one breakout new IP that is a full-fledged, like an RPG works fine, or an action game with RPG elements. And if they kept it, like there was one like little leak that got my mind rolling with ideas. It was the Knights of the Aegis game that was teased, not teased, it was a thing, it was a rumor. And Knights of the Aegis is basically set in the 1970s New York City, and you had cops and swords and knights and all this cool stuff. Like, oh my gosh, imagine how cool that would be. Like you're playing like almost like a grizzled detective kind of deal. You're playing like a detective, but with him instead, like, he can't be walking around carrying out a giant big sword all the time. He's walking around with a little revolver, and this like when like hits the fan and like monsters show up, then he whips out the sword, and then it goes into a whole different type of game. I was like, oh man, that would be so cool.
As long as they got swords, I don't care. I just don't want that.
I'm fine with the swords. I can't say swords exclusively.
I don't know.
That's my opinion.
Here. D21 exclusive. Hey, D, what's going on, man? Appreciate you stopping in. He says, do Microsoft try to make a deal for Cuphead 2 as Xbox exclusive given recent success?
I'm sure that's already in play.
I think they should go for it because Cuphead's got franchise potential. Like just the novel idea and the character design is enough. Either that or let Nintendo put him in Smash Bros. He belongs in Smash Bros.
Why? Microsoft need their own Smash Bros. We keep saying this. They have so many mascots. I don't understand. You might as well just follow. You might as well just join. PlayStation has their, like, seriously, PlayStation has their all-star fighting game or whatever. Whether it's lame or not, who cares? They got all their mascots in there. Nintendo has theirs. I wouldn't even be surprised if Nintendo was willing to let a Nintendo character go, like a Donkey, not Mario, but like a Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong or something like that, in exchange for a Banjo. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they worked out something like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like guest characters or whatever. So I think Microsoft should do that. Could you imagine playing Cameo and a fight and switching monsters on the fly? Like the original Spinal for Killer Instinct, when you would do a combo, he would switch into that character, but be in black and white. Like, imagine if you were Cameo playing and you're fighting and then you switch to the dragon, then you switch to the armadillo. Like, that'd be dope. I think that'd be really dope. But then you have all the other mascots in there and everything. Master Chief, a Gear character from Gear, something like that. I just think Microsoft could do it. Whether people buy it or not, I don't know. But I think it'd be cool if they did that.
Yeah,
I think they should focus more on tag team combat, like switching out or something like that. Like, how they had to do in other fighting games. But I think if they focus more on that and like have unlikely pairings, it could be really fun.
Yeah, definitely. Joseph says, why do a fighting game with mascots? Why not do an RPG with them?
I'd be down for that too.
An RPG with mascots?
We talked about this. Didn't we talk about this though? An RPG with mascots.
How would this even make sense?
It doesn't have to make sense. It's a video game. That makes sense.
It's like one of those things where it's like for example, Kingdom Hearts. That don't make no sense. Kingdom Hearts makes no. There's no reason why I should be going to the Nightmare Before Christmas. Or like Aladdin's, like this, it makes no sense. This is a kid trapped on an island with his best friend and the girl he loves, and he gets picked up by Donald and Goofy, gets transported to a whole nother world with characters called the Soulless. Mickey Mouse is a ninja in this game. He's a part of Akatsuki at this point. He has a cloak. He drops out in the middle of battle for no reason. Characters from Final Fantasy VII are showing up. Why y'all here? They're not even a part of Disney. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? It makes no sense. But people love it. People love it. Microsoft, it'd be cool if Microsoft did something like that, but you got to find the right studio.
I don't care if people love it. People don't have good taste in games. So what do I care?
Oh my God. You don't have good taste in games. Let's not talk.
No, the only person who has good taste in games is me. Everyone else, everything, as my motto is, everything you love is garbage.
I'll never trust anybody who chooses Fallout over Elder Scrolls. So definitely don't have good taste. Not saying Elder Scrolls a bad. I'm not saying Fallout's a bad game, but we all know Scrolls.
If Elder Scrolls is so good, where's Elder Scrolls 6?
It's coming. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But they working on it. You know what I'm saying? You just keep. Oh, you can't play Fallout, can you?
I got like a month. It's not that bad. I'm patient. I can wait for that patch.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. I think that's really it, man. That's really it for tonight. I want to thank everybody for stopping out. I really appreciate the support. Great turnout tonight. We will definitely be back next week, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Tick Podcast. I want to shout out the guys who stopped in and has kept the chat live. Joe Sinister, Fastback, Zebpo, Chris Colbert, D21, Chico XL. I said Chico XL, Edge XL. Hey, Foul, what's going on? Welcome to the chat. Of course, my man TF, the God. Without question. Mike M, I've got to say your name. Thank you for stopping out, man. I really appreciate the support, guys. It means a lot to us. We come out here, Doc Wiz. We come out here every week and we try to put on the show for everybody, man. And the support means a lot. So again, I'm your host, Kerwa SKL, with B Money 101 and Anchorman V. And we are the Inner Circle Podcast. We'll return next week, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Keep it locked. And you can follow us on Twitter at tick_podcast, and make sure you check out TICGN.com, the premier website for video game news, reviews, opinions, and obviously podcasts. All right, you guys have a good night. We'll see you next week. We're off this planet. Peace.